Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is week one in the NFL. It is the first Sunday of the 2021 NFL season, and I'm speaking for everyone right now when I say I'm excited. I know Braden's excited. I know Kyle's excited. Let's jump into it, guys. I'm not going to waste any time with some long-winded introduction, although now I am kind of making it a long-winded introduction. But no, we got a lot to talk about today. This is the first actual FPC NFL Sunday show. We were on live on Thursday, but again, we called it the FPC Sunday show, but you get it. You understand this is the very first one on an actual Sunday to kick off the NFL season, and we are excited to be here. So, guys, how we feeling today? We well rested? We ready to go? We ready to sit down and watch a whole hell of a lot of football today?
For sure. I don't know about the well rested part, but that's okay. I mean, I as long as there's football on it, it doesn't really matter. So ready to go.
Absolutely, and we got a little bit of a taste too on Thursday, and I apologize, Kyle. Am I a little delayed here?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay,
unless this reveals it right now, but
no, you're good. Just on my end for a second, it looked like there was a little bit of a pause. So that's the beauty of live programming. You got to figure out these things on the fly. So I figured, hey, what the hell? I'm going to ask you, and your response was all I needed. We were, like I said, we were on Thursday. We were already obviously talking about this upcoming week just a little bit, but of course we focused primarily on the Thursday night kickoff game between the Bucs and the Cowboys. And I know we talked during the game and sort of after the game, and that was one hell of a game to kick off the season. We got just about everything. Two great quarterback performances. I mean, we talked about Dak on Thursday, and I don't think any of us would disagree that we thought he was a really good quarterback. We were just all concerned just how long it was going to take him to get comfortable again after this injury. And I'd say about one series, and that was it. He was great on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Braden.
Oh, go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
Well, actually, I do have a question that maybe transitions into the next one, but yeah, I would have viewed him as a top 10 quarterback entering this year. I think that was pretty easy. Like I wouldn't have given much thought to that ranking, but I think the question is like how high in that top 10 now. But yeah, he looked incredibly impressive. He moved really well, which is like mobility inside the pocket, and even ran a little bit. Maybe his top end speed isn't there yet. What we've seen before from him, because he's a pretty good athlete. In that regard, but that'll return as he regains strength. But the pocket mobility was the thing. Okay, can he maneuver in the pocket? Because he doesn't rely on his rushing that much. I mean, rushing touchdowns are occasionally, but he was on pace to throw for 6,000 yards last year, and based on might be the same this year.
Well, and that's the that's the thing too. It's like, look, I don't think the game plan was for him to go out and throw 58 times or whatever it was. I think that was the final pass attempt number. It was dictated by how the Bucs were playing, and we'll sit here and talk about how phenomenal Dak was, and he definitely surprised me. And I think the question you're getting into is not so much is he a top 10 quarterback, but is he knocking on the door of being one of the top 5 best in the league? Now, there's a lot of factors that go into it. It's not just about his play. I mean, yeah, it is about his play, but it's also about the other guys in that list. And I think we all agree that the 3 at the top are very firmly solidified in those top 3, which means who rounds out that top 5, and that's where I think that discussion comes into. And if you're getting more performances like this on a weekly basis from Dak Prescott, there's no doubt he's going to end up being in that top 5 mix. No doubt about it.
I'd say the top 4 is pretty solidified. I do kind of view Russell Wilson as probably closer to that top 3 than he is to number 5, whoever that is. Yeah. I think, Ian, you were talking about the lack of Seahawks success we think is due to the offensive line, but certainly the quarterback play that he's demonstrated is incredible. So I'd put him very firmly at number 4, which really does leave one spot left. Can Dak take that spot or not? At least in my eyes. I don't know. Maybe you're so impressed with what you saw Thursday, you already think he's better than Wilson.
No. I mean, look, I'm not one to overreact. Anyone who knows me, I kind of keep it pretty even keeled. I try to keep I try to don't live in the moment too much. Braden, what do you think?
I'm honestly kind of torn, I guess, between him and Wilson. I think there's parts of me that I think he's been a little bit more successful when going deeper down the field right now in Dak's case. And we saw him just put some really tight balls in between defenders on Thursday. So just going back to what he did early last year and last night, I honestly would be willing to put Dak over Russell. I think Wilson's still top 5, but I would probably put Dak 4 and Wilson 5 at this point.
Yeah, the question is, you're asking the questions, Ian. Sorry, I'll let you do that.
No, well, I was just going to say, look, I mean, you're not going to get a consensus view on that, but I'm not necessarily going to shoot you down for your reasonings, because look, this isn't just based off this one game. I mean, obviously there is there's plenty to go off of this with Dak, and I think he's demonstrated for a while now that he has elite level talent. But early on in his career, whether it's fair or not, Ezekiel Elliott got more credit for the Cowboys' success. And look, I mean, when Zeke Elliott was at the peak of his game, yeah, of course, that's going to help the team out. But I think it overshadowed a little bit of what Deshaun, sorry, he's up on the screen right now on NFL Network, so I'll apologize, but for what Dak was doing, because Dak's been a pretty good quarterback from pretty much day one, and I think he's only gotten better. And I think we saw a little bit of this Thursday night.
I think with Dak, saying he's gotten better has been, I think, really key. And it's not that he's gotten more accurate. I think it's he's gotten the timing down a lot better. I think as a rookie we saw it. Yeah. He was more of a see it thrower. That's why I think Cole Beasley had a lot of success being so open in the slot. That's why he would rely on that more than throwing it up to Des Bryant in contested catch situations. And it was good as a young player to avoid those turnovers. But as he's gotten that timing and that touchdown, he's gotten more aggressive with his throws and throwing his receivers open. So yeah, he's massively improved. And it's funny because I think that's a perfect transition, Ian, because my question is, if it's not Dak, who are we putting in the top 5? And I think, probably 10 months ago, less than that now, probably would have said Deshaun Watson, right?
Yeah.
So you're not so wrong.
Yeah, I think he easily would land in that top 5. Ryan Tannehill, again, we've said it before in the show, the guy's probably the most underappreciated quarterback in this league, especially given what he's done over the last couple of years.
Josh Allen took a massive step last year.
Josh Allen, yeah.
If he could keep doing that's a good case too, I think.
And that's the key right there. As great as Josh Allen was last year, we still have 2 seasons of really bad Josh Allen versus one really good season. Now, I'm not discrediting him for that. I'm not saying he can't continue that. But like I said, I'm not a prisoner of the moment. I want to see it happen repetitive, over and over and over again. So, if Josh Allen comes out and has a strong first 6 weeks of the season, all of a sudden you're like, okay, this looks like he's sustaining it. We can have that discussion. But again, it's all going to revolve around that 4 and 5 spot. Really, like I said, I don't think there's anything that's going to change the top 3 this season. And kind of, so I can slide this comment in. This is a pretty good segue into that. Based on what we saw on Thursday, as great as Dak Prescott was, 44-year-old Tom Brady was better, which it's not meant as an insult to Dak Prescott. It's just more of a, what are we watching right now from this guy that's supposed to be well past the point of expiration when it comes to football player. So I was really impressed with that. I think we, I think we all kind of foresaw or looked to see, or we saw the Antonio Brown game coming in a way. I think we all talked about it prior to that game that Antonio Brown might end up being the Bucs' best receiver, and that was really on display early, and it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. So before we move on and start talking about today's games and the slate of games we have coming up in the next few hours, any lasting impressions from that opening night game that really stuck out to you that maybe you weren't expecting to see going into it?
I shouldn't have benched Amari Cooper. He really impressed me, getting open in some really tight coverages. I know there was one play he dropped it, but you kind of anticipate that. But he also made a couple of really good catches. So that's kind of the one thing that's always been missing from his game was his hands. Right? The key drops at the worst possible time. He'll perfect route, burn a guy wide open, and then drop with a would-be score. So I think getting the hands better is if Cooper can do that, maybe he takes the next step. So that's kind of my, I guess, potential lasting impression. He has to, again, be more consistent with it, right? It's not just a one game size.
I'd have to point to Gronk. I mean, he kind of carried over what he did late in the playoffs last year. Just looked like regular season, getting back into the game away for a year. He was kind of still trying to get back healthy and get back moving again. It looks like he's back to the same old Gronk. So that's going to be even more dangerous on an already loaded Bucs offense. So if he can keep that up, that's what really stood out to me for Tampa's offense on Thursday night.
And that's important. I'm glad you brought that up too, because I noticed that as well. He looked quicker, and to point out his kind of career path, he took his season off around the same time that Tom Brady had his injury. And, over that time off, he used it to trim up a little bit. He kind of took more, he went more into that TB12 method that we've talked about before. And he looks quicker. He looks leaner, but he looks just as strong as he's been in the past. So again, if you're right, if he turns back into, a Gronk from a few years ago, then, the NFL is in for quite a long season against those two, because we've seen it demonstrated, on Twitter. Some of the plays that they had, the seam route touchdown situation was great. Anyways, I don't want to spend too much time on this game, because again, we could talk all day and then forget about what we're supposed to be doing today. I do want to point out though that with his 50 pass attempts on Thursday, Tom Brady now moves to 20-9 when throwing more than 50 times in a game. No other quarterback has more than 5 wins, and often you're sitting at about 200 to 300 winning percentage. One of the most incredible Tom Brady stats, in my humble opinion. But let's move on.
He doesn't need a run game. That's basically what that stat says, right? Because most of the time when all those other quarterbacks are throwing those games, it's because they're from behind. But he can throw 50 when he's ahead, and it doesn't matter. It's barely any risk. I know he threw 2 interceptions, and we're not going to focus on that but it's safer than running the football. They ran the clock out at one point where they just threw it 3 incompletions real quick just to incrementally run down the clock, because they viewed that as safer than actually running the football and maybe fumbling. Right. Yep. So, and you'd only need to run once to get that same amount of time. And yet throwing it 3 times is less risky than running it once. That's Tom Brady.
He doesn't care about the incompletions. Like, that hurt his passer rating. That's why I love railing on passer rating for things like that. I mean, those 2 interceptions and those 3 incompletions were big time negative plays on passer rating, but they were all, well, I'm not going to say all positive. The incompletions were positive. We know the interceptions. Even Dak Prescott's interception was one of his best throws of the night. Maybe you can argue that, okay, maybe you don't try to fit it into that tight of coverage, but it was on target right into the receiver's hand, and hey, it didn't, whatever. But that is what it is. We're here to talk week 1 because we have, again, a whole long list of games going, starting here at 1:00 here Eastern time. Biggest storyline of the day is probably rookie quarterbacks. Am I right? I mean, that's really got to be it. I mean, we have 5 that were drafted in the first round. 3 of them are starting today, with potentially the other 2. I mean, it's only a matter of time, right, before they get in. And it could be, I mean, in some cases today up in Chicago, perhaps.
And those 2 have been probably the biggest storylines, right? Is Fields and Lance. When are they going to start? And the focus on them, and they're not the ones even starting. So you are right. Like, in terms of the narrative, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, right, finally reaching the NFL. People have been waiting for this for half a decade, right? And then, I mean, Fields as well, just as long. I mean, he was a 5-star recruit, same as Lawrence. Like, it seemed like those 2 are going to be kind of synonymous. Probably expected to go 1-2. Thanks, Jets, for throwing that curveball. But Zach Wilson is starting, so we'll see what they got out of him. They get out of him, at least in this game, versus their former quarterback, Sam Darnold. That's the NFL scheduling.
I love NFL scheduling. It always seems to work out that way.
That I guarantee that was done on purpose. They found a way to make that work. That's thanks to give us that storyline.
Hey, it makes it intriguing, and look, I mean, I'm excited to see it.
Two
For
former
many,
Alabama quarterbacks playing against
yeah,
each other too.
well,
Sorry, I just thought of that.
yeah, well, that's the thing, and the often forgotten one up in Philadelphia too. I mean, it's all about Tua and Mac Jones right now, but there's a third Alabama quarterback starting.
Yeah.
He's not a rookie, obviously, but starting in the NFL right now. But obviously, you're right though. The big storyline being surrounding Mac Jones up in New England. Cam Newton's no longer there. This is year 2 without. I can't remember how someone put it on Twitter, but it's like post Tom Brady, like PTBE or whatever. This is year 2 in that era. Which look, it's a big deal in New England. Obviously, Kyle, you follow the Packers, so you've dealt with seeing one team move on from a legendary quarterback, and fortunately for you, you got another one. The Patriots are hoping that that's the case with Mac Jones, number 15 overall. And look, I mean, this is the first time since 1993 the Patriots have started a rookie quarterback in week 1, and that was first overall pick Drew Bledsoe. So Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, all 3 of them starting. So let me ask you, who do you see first, Trey Lance or Justin Fields?
I think Trey Lance personally.
Ooh, I think it's Fields. As much as Nagy can be stubborn, I also wonder if that's a decision he might not. That might be a decision that's imposed upon him. I'm sure Ryan Pace wants Fields out as soon as possible, and he might not give Nagy a choice in that. And I think the injury to Lance is gonna, to me, like okay, if the 49ers lose to the Lions, maybe we see Trey Lance start week 2 because there's no excuse to lose to them. But as long as Jimmy G's winning games, I think they're going to stick with him. Whereas, I don't know, I could see Pace, like even if Dalton's winning games, I could see Pace really putting the pressure on Nagy, basically saying like, play him or you're fired. Like, I have that authority to do that. I don't want to lose my job because you're refusing to play the quarterback that I traded up to draft. So I wonder if that dynamic comes into play. So I'm going to say Fields, and maybe it's just because on one of my contract salary league teams, I do have Fields as a quarterback. I need him to start as soon as possible to do well this year. But yeah, I'm going to say Fields.
Well, look, I agree real quick, and I'll let you go, Braden. I agree. Jimmy G has a much longer leash. He was, voted as a team captain. He's the starter, and this is more about his play than I think the rookie, where as opposed to up in Chicago, where it's more about the rookie as opposed to whatever you get out of your starting quarterback. So, go ahead, Braden.
Maybe Braden's predicting the Lions do win week 1, and that's why Jimmy G gets benched.
I guess for me, I think the creativity of Kyle Shanahan.
Go ahead, Braden. You're
not good.
There
I just think the creativity of Kyle Shanahan. I think creativity. I would now allow Lance getting a couple of red zone snaps, either running the option or just getting a chance to like roll it out and throw it on the run. I think Shanahan finally having his guy, he's gonna. I think momentum just every little bit here in Chicago. It's kind of weird. I think the leash is perceived to be shorter than what it really is on Nagy and Pace, and I think in some they're going to wait on Fields to kind of save themselves and say, I mean, it's not the rookie quarterback that is letting down. It's not a guy. It's this older version of a guy what he used to be in Andy Dalton. So I think that's they're almost taking the Mahomes approach, knowing that Nagy was in that room with Reed when Mahomes was there sitting under Alex Smith. I think they're just going to try so hard before or gets to a point Fields just has to come in and play.
It might also be one of those things. If they go with Fields off the bat and he doesn't look good, then they're definitely gone. Like Pace is gone. Let you messed up on the quarterback, right? So yeah, maybe that is kind of protecting the job there. They kind of use it as an excuse. Oh, he's not quite ready, but he's the guy. So give us 4 years, because like I think they're both lame ducks right now, right? Like Pace and Nagy are both entering the final year of their contract. So like, yeah, to me, it's going to be, you got to prove that you can stay on more than anything, right? Because I could see maybe Nagy getting fired mid-season, but I don't think they're going to fire Pace until maybe Pace is the first to go on. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in Chicago, but I just feel like, next year they might have the best quarterback in the division. So why not play him and give him his best, as much playing experience this year, so that next year he's like fully ready to take over. And I'm hoping not dominate this division, but I believe in Fields. I think I really don't like. I know Lawrence is getting a lot of credit. This like generational guy. I don't think he's that much better than Fields. Honestly, I think Fields has that capacity to really carry and again maybe dominate this division. I don't want that to happen, but that's my biggest fear. So thanks NFL for letting the Bears take Justin Fields. I'm still bitter about that.
And I believe in Fields a lot too. I think it's just you look at Chicago's history too, like how many different coaches have they gone through, and I mean they haven't had I think Nagy's 2 8-8 seasons. That's their best stretch, believe it or not, in this century. So I think there's a lot different maybe there probably could be. So I mean,
yeah, I think Trestman went 8-8, but
not
then
been successful playoffs, but 500. No, you're good. I
think Trestman went 8-8 his first year, but then losing seasons the next two. So did Lovie Smith? I know he got fired after a 10-win season. I can't remember what he did the year before. It might have been a losing season the year before. So yeah, to your credit, it's even with Lovie Smith, they had like the year they went to the NFC Championship game and then missed the playoffs next year. Like it was kind of an up and down tenure. He had enough success, but probably never 2 years in a row. So that's a good point to your credit.
And I'd also like to point out, I would imagine that Fields is in not too many situations. He's in a better situation than a counterpart quarterback, but based on where Trevor Lawrence is down in Jacksonville, I'd say he's in a better situation right now to succeed because, we're not going to really spend any time on it. But if we're going to project Urban Meyer's a length of time in the NFL at this moment, I would take the under on whatever number they put out there. So anyway,
he probably gets fired before Gruden. I know they both signed long contracts. I feel like Gruden's at least got. Like he's won a Super Bowl, right? Like Gruden, he's got that to kind of like always have.
Gruden will stick it out every single year of the contract if they let him. Urban will walk away 7 years left in that contract, and that would not surprise me whatsoever, citing some sort of health or stress, whatever. But again, that's not where we're not going to talk about that here today. We could spend some time on that on another time. But I do want to ask you outside of the quarterbacks, because again, there's a lot of things happening this week. It's the first time we're going to see a lot of guys in new uniforms. Julio Jones making his debut with the Titans. We have obviously Jameis Winston taking the reins in New Orleans, so we're going to keep an eye on that. What are we going to get from him? We've already mentioned Mac Jones up in New England, Zach Wilson, all the rookies, all that stuff. What storyline, what situation is most intriguing to you guys coming into this week? Because like I said, there are a lot. It's always jam-packed week one. There's hope for everyone except the Jets. And obviously so many storylines. So go at it. Kyle, take it away first, and then I'll go to Braden.
Oh, you're going to let me ramble on first. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a particular game that I'm maybe surprisingly looking forward to. And it's this new Colts offense. I guess the only thing that's new about it is the quarterback, right? And it looks like Carson Wentz is going to play. It looks like Quentin Nelson's going to play. So right off the bat, they get the Seahawks in a game where obviously we favor the other quarterback, but I'm a big I've invested quite a bit in Jonathan Taylor this year, taking him in the first round of a few fantasy football drafts. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he could have a Derrick Henry like season. Like 2,000 yards to me doesn't like it'd be like the like the 1% outcome for him, but I think it's there. So like right off the bat, is this going to be a game where knowing that they want to keep the ball away from Russell Wilson, are we going to see Jonathan Taylor dominate touches right off the bat? So I'm really looking forward to that and seeing one of the next great running backs in the league really emerge. And also, how does Carson Wentz look with this new team? So a lot of question marks around the Colts. Are they going to be a contender, or are they just a rebuild season and they're looking for another quarterback next year? So right off the bat, they get a test with the Seahawks. So I think it's a good measuring stick, and we'll see. So I'm looking forward to that game. Probably more low key than some other more explosive games, but seeing that on the schedule, I'm really intrigued by it.
What about you, Braden? Oh, maybe he's on a little bit of a delay. Maybe he can't hear us. You can hear me, right, Kyle? I'm not just
Arnold with the Panthers for me. I mean, we always talk quarterbacks, and that's one that. It's got to be Sam. And you look at the kind of capital that Carolina invested. It's going to be interesting to see with Joe Brady's offense. A lot of really, really good weapons around him. He's already been with Robbie Anderson before. DJ Moore's kind of been underrated, I think, around the league. And obviously, if McCaffrey's healthy and back this year, the sky's the limit for him. but it's just you wonder how much of a step can Darnold take? Is a player that succeeds well after is this going to be a very, very botched and failed opportunity for Carolina when, again, in the draft, you were at 8, you could have went Fields or Mac Jones, kind of like a Denver situation. So really, really interesting in Carolina how much they've gone through changes the last couple of years. Matt Rule, another coach that signed for a long time. So him obviously going against his old team today, but just him throughout the season is going to be really fun to watch for me.
And look, I am intrigued by Darnold in Carolina. I honestly don't think it's going to be that successful because, I just feel like Sam Darnold is who he is. I don't think he got any favors playing for the Jets, in which case, I worry about Zach Wilson a little bit, his long-term future. But, Sam Darnold was this guy in college too. So to me, there's not going to be much change from him, even with better coaching. I mean, he's going to improve maybe marginally, but the ceiling for me, I just don't believe is that high. And does Carolina, like you said, does Carolina regret this in the end? Maybe they do. I mean, it really all depends on what these quarterbacks end up being. I mean, if Mac Jones comes out and ends up being in a few years ends up being a top 10 quarterback, well, they're probably going to regret this. Same with, these other guys, because they had the opportunity to go out and not, get a guy that you already have to pay money for. The best thing about this is like, you're paying moderate salaries to these young quarterbacks for 4 years until you actually have to, I mean, granted, some of these guys get paid before that rookie contract is up, but you're already paying Sam Darnold, a guy who you have to repair, not necessarily develop. You have to repair and then develop, which could really, again, depending on the situation, we'll see. But, they have Christian McCaffrey. He's a guy who I think could, kind of bounce back and end up being an offensive player of the year if he's healthy for all 17 games because, well, I mean, who else do they really have? I mean, I like guys like Robbie Anderson, but, you got Christian McCaffrey. You're going to have to lean completely on him, I think, for Sam Darnold.
I mean, DJ Moore's pretty talented too, but Christian McCaffrey's also had a 1,000-yard season in a 16-game schedule. So with the 17-game schedule, that I feel like that's possible again. And I mean, it might not be a mistake if Christian McCaffrey leads this team in targets. That's target the ball in his hand. Any target towards him is probably usually a good play at the very least. So.
No,
it's funny. We just talked about the new quarterbacks, like rookie quarterbacks, the quarterbacks on new teams. Apparently, that's dominating today.
You know why? Kyle?
It's the first game.
Because quarterbacks are what the NFL are all about. They win games and they lose games. That's why quarterback wins
success or win.
And there we go. That's my quota for the day. I've been able to hit that for the most part. So we're going to give our picks here in just a minute, but we're going to have a little fun here. We have our friends over at Play Pickup. They do a great job of putting out all these props. You'll see them in our articles, and of course, you'll see also their tweets and stuff pop up. So I encourage you to check them out. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to throw up a prop, and we're just going to try to answer the question. Some of it's going to kind of play into what we've already talked about. Other things, we'll try to cover what we've missed. But we're going to get started right away, and it's going to be about someone we've already kind of spent a little bit of time talking about, and that is Mr. Trevor Lawrence. So I'll start with Braden this time. We'll mix it up a little bit. Over under 2.5 total touchdowns, passing or rushing, I should say, for Trevor Lawrence in his debut today. Braden, what do you think?
I'm actually going to go under on this one. I think they might want to run the ball more than people think under Urban Meyer. So I think James Robinson's going to have a big day, even though it's against a bad defense. I just don't think I can go over 2.5. I think I got to go under there.
I mean, is it possible, like if you threw the pass and then the player lateraled it back to you, would you get credit for a passing touchdown and then the rushing touchdown for running it in? So maybe you could do it all in one play, but I guess it wouldn't count for the extra total here.
Wait, doesn't Aaron Rodgers do that every week? That's what Packers fans tell me.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a little bitter.
I love the Packers, but you are right. There are some
Yeah.
Packers fans that could be pretty insufferable.
Hey,
I'm sure
Patriots
all
fans are out
of
of their
our
mind
fan
too,
bases
so.
have insufferable fans in them.
Look, I'm a Patriots fan. Braden's a Chiefs fan. You're a Packers fan. Those are probably the three of the most ridiculously upside down fan bases I've ever encountered, just in terms of just all over the place from one end of the spectrum to the other. So what I say about Packers fans deep down, I really mean about Patriots fans as well. So go ahead. Sorry about that.
Crazy fans. We're calling crazy fans. At first I thought, Trevor Lawrence could go crazy on a crazy train in this game. Oh, he could throw 5 touchdowns against the Texans. They're just awful. But because they're so bad, and I think the Texans' key to success will be running the football, limiting possessions. And I think Braden made a good point. They've got James Robinson. This could be a game where they, maybe want to ease Trevor Lawrence in. If they could keep him to right around 20 pass attempts, they might view that as a good thing if they're winning and they can run the football with Robinson. I guess this is one. I mean, David Culley, I don't know about coaching wise. This might be one of the few games where Urban Meyer actually has the edge of coaching. So I think the Jags will win this even on the road, and because of that, I'm thinking under here.
And you know what? And I'm actually going to go against that just because it is both rushing and throwing touchdowns. So there's a chance that maybe a play breaks down, because I do think that the Jags can put up some points on Houston just because it's Houston. And going with that inexperienced head coach, I think, there's going to be, moments, there's going to be opportunities. So to say Lawrence could end the day with 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, I think that's a completely reasonable situation for him. So in that case, that's who I would take. So I'm going to take the over on that. I'm going to go against the grain here a little bit. So moving to, and you'll just have to bear with me while I get used to pulling these up and trying to get these as fluid as possible, as efficient as possible as we go through this. It's sometimes hard to talk and produce at the same time, but here we are. Next one, we have Mr. Josh Jacobs. Will he have 80-plus yards this week against Baltimore, Monday Night Football?
Wow.
I'm going to say no. I think this Ravens defense is too legit, and I'm really concerned with that Raiders offensive line. If this was 80 total yards, he probably still wouldn't reach it because they don't like to throw him the football anyway. But that would be maybe the more path to success against the Ravens for a running back is catching passes. So, I expect this will be a game where I feel like the Raiders will be behind. They may have to abandon the run. So I don't know that Jacobs will get the volume or the efficiency to do it. So I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I would agree with you, because even with all the Ravens injuries, I think you have to throw the ball a lot in this game. So like you said, I mean, if it was total yards, I'd say yeah. But I mean, I don't have a lot of expectations for this offensive line. So I think I got to go no on this one. It's going to be a game, I think, that Baltimore's defensive line too, that this is a game where they're going to get a lot of tackles for loss. You look at Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe kind of leading the way. So I got to go no on this one.
And I'm going to make it a clean sweep. I agree. I think the 80 yards are a little bit too much, which means he's obviously going to go for like $120, and we're gonna sit here and be like, well, it was obvious, of course. No, I think the Ravens obviously are hurting on the offensive side, but I still think that they have a strong defense, and I think at least strong enough to limit what Josh Jacobs does. So moving on to the next one, we got some more here. I think this is the right one. Let's hope so.
Do you want us to ramble on aimlessly?
No.
No,
It's okay. There we go. Look at that. We already talked about the Alabama quarterbacks. Okay. This is more of a season-long one. I'm going to throw it in the mix. The other one's more weekly or for specific for this week. Basically, who has more touchdown passes in 2021-22? Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, or Tua Tagovailoa?
Wow, this is tough because I think Philly's going to throw it a lot. And I just don't know who else they really have, but I'm gonna go with Mac Jones on this one. I think they're gonna want to show him off maybe a little bit, and I think Miami's kind of one of those teams that's okay with running it over 30 times a game. So I got to go with Mac Jones on this one. think they're going to get a lot of touchdowns to the running backs and tight ends this year, especially James White. So give me Mac Jones on this one.
The passing touchdown is the key here, I think. If you'd said total touchdowns, I'd probably say Hurts, no question, actually, because of the rushing floor. I'm still a little concerned with not only his efficiency, but just that offense's efficiency in general. But I'm thinking about it. What happens when, so Patriots, Dolphins, I think both offenses will be efficient enough. They'll get to the red zone often enough. What happens when they get to the red zone? What happens when they get close to the goal line? With Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, even without Cam Newton, the Patriots still have those run-heavy bruisers to where I think they'll be they were one of the most run-heavy teams in the NFL last year in the red zone. A lot of that had to do with Cam, but I don't think it's entirely to do with Cam. With Myles Gaskin, there's the perceived workhorse for the Dolphins. His one limitation is near the goal line, so that might be something where they can't punch it in as easily, forcing Tua to throw it in. So I'm actually going to say Tua here.
Yeah, look, I'm going to agree with Braden just because of the passing touchdown thing. I think Mac Jones, again, I'm with you, Kyle, though. I got to see what they're going to do down at the goal line. Like, it is, if they get down tight, are they going to struggle? I mean, teams, this is the toughest area on the field to play offense. I mean, the everything shrinks when you're down there in the red zone. Everyone thinks, oh, you're close to the end zone, it's going to be easy. No, but if you have to continuously set up within 10 yards, within 5 yards, it severely limits your play selection, and it really gives an advantage to the defense, who doesn't have to worry about a certain amount of a big area behind them anymore, because, well, that's the back of the end zone. But I do think Mac is going to be able to, with the talent on this team, I think that's a big part of it too. With the talent on the Patriots, the Jonnu Smiths of the world, the Hunter Henrys, big red zone targets, I do think he's going to end up racking up some touchdown passes and potentially having that biggest total out of those Alabama guys. So the next one, this is for week 1, another quarterback, surprise, surprise, Kyler Murray, over or under 325 total yards this week.
I think I've been under on everything, and finally found the one where I'm going to go over on. I think that's my instinct telling me here that, especially combined, this Titans-Cardinals game, I think is either the second or third highest on the week. So I think the points will be put up. There should be tons of yards to go along with those points. And so, yeah, I'm going to say he goes over that.
Yeah, I would agree, just because, I mean, Tennessee's secondary from a passing perspective, a lot of youth. Christian Fulton's in his second year. You got 2 rookies with Caleb Farley and Elijah Molden, and who knows exactly how much they're going to play. They did get rid of Kenny Vaccaro, Malcolm Butler, obviously. So there's a lot of youth there. So, I mean, I guaranteed to get, 50, 60 plus rushing each week. So I'm going to go over, added with the secondary kind of being as young and as leaky as they could be.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I'm going to go with the over. I just see a pretty big game. You throw in the debut of DeAndre Hopkins, which we haven't even mentioned yet. I think it's going to end up being a pretty big day for Kyler Murray. And look, he's one of those guys that you're excited to see what's going to happen with him this year. Is he going to continue progressing? Is he going to be a guy who's going to maybe not break into the top 5, but maybe break into the top 10, or really solidify his spot among the top 10 quarterbacks in this league? So, and that's certainly something that's within his grasp if he can improve on a few things. So,
I am just looking here though. It doesn't look like he did it that often, reaching that 320 combined yards. I'm counting only 6 instances last year where it happened. So at first I thought, this seems like an easy total, but that's actually a pretty good line. Now upon looking back, I'm going to still take the over, but it's like, upon looking at the numbers, it's actually closer than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, it's true. And look, I mean, maybe they might catch Tennessee at their most vulnerable defensively. Start of the season, they're going through some changes themselves. This could be a good opportunity for him and DeAndre Hopkins to really rack up some yards here. So next, we got the Bears and the Rams. Matthew Stafford, another guy. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Matthew Stafford yet, another intriguing storyline. But he makes his debut with the Rams against the Bears. We've already talked about the Bears quite a bit. Over under 45.5 points in this one combined.
I've seen this line lower. So just because of that, I've seen this line down closer to 43.5, and maybe it's gone up. But I think because of that, I'm going to say under. I think this is kind of more of a defensive game. It kind of has traditionally been the last few years with both of these really incredible front sevens. And I guess with the case of the Rams, pretty good secondary. The Bears, we'll see. But I think they keep it low. So I'll say under.
I'm going to go under as well. I think as much as I like Matthew Stafford in that offense, I didn't play in the preseason. So I think there's still going to be some kinks they're going to have to work through a little bit opening the year, clean slate. And I just don't think against the Rams defense, I don't think the Bears will even reach 20 points. So, yeah, I got to go under on this one.
Yeah, I agree too. Like, part of me wants to sit here and say I think Matthew Stafford's going to have a great debut with the Rams. It's warm out, it's sunny, you're fresh, you're healthy. I think that's a recipe for success for Matt Stafford against a team that the Bears that I don't think anyone sees them as any serious Super Bowl contender. Probably just mediocre at best NFC team. So it's certainly a potential for excuse me. For the Rams to have some success. But to Braden's point, early on in the season, new team, new everything, sometimes it's that's a little bit of wishful thinking for them to come out on fire right off the bat. So I'm going to take the under as well. So brings us to our last one, and one that Kyle could help us answer, because another intriguing storyline heading into the season, is this going to be Aaron Rodgers' last year in Green Bay? In which case, what kind of success are they going to have? Well, it starts with week 1, and I think there's an obvious answer to this question, but we all know, obviously, Aaron Rodgers can spread the ball around. So who has the most catches for Green Bay in week 1 against the Saints?
I might have been tempted to go off the board thinking that, okay, Marshawn Lattimore is just going to shadow Devontae Adams, but I'll be honest, Alan Lazard was torching Marshawn Lattimore last year, so I don't really have an issue that Adams could. And there's talk that Marshawn Lattimore, I think he's questionable entering this game, so even if he plays, he's not 100%. So this is one I'm just going to stick with the chalk and say Adams. This is probably going to be the same answer for this question every week, to be honest, but I think there's a reason. It's so obvious. He's maybe the best receiver in the NFL. A variety of reasons. The hands, which used to be an issue early in his career, but he contested catch. He can separate so easily. His moves off the line. We talked Thursday about Brown and his variety of moves. Adams maybe one of the next best at it. Just in terms of the footwork off the line. He barely ever has to arm fight to get off the line because he's so good with his feet. So I think Adams. That's a really long-winded way to give the obvious answer.
Yeah, I think I got to agree. And I saw a stat the other day, and I know this is talking about catches, but he had the most touchdown games last year too. So, I mean, I just think the ability that he has to separate and get open, especially over the middle of the field and then short and intermediate routes, that's going to add up, I think, really, really early on against the Saints today. So, yeah, it's an obvious answer, but I got to go Devontae here.
Yeah, look, I'm right there with you. You sometimes you overthink these things, but like Kyle said, I mean, Devontae Adams at worst is a top 3 receiver in this league. I'm right there with you. I think he's probably the best overall receiver. There's other names you can throw out there, but for the most part, I mean, he checks all the boxes when it comes to elite receiver-ness, and I think he's due for a good start to the season. Plus, it's I'm interested to see, is this going to be I don't want to call it, a revenge tour or anything like that, because, what is this going to be for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers? Is this potential last season going to be something that elevates them to the Super Bowl, or is it going to be a distraction? Obviously, we don't know yet. We haven't played a game, so there's no way to really tell. We're just basing it off just what we know, what the situation or what we anticipate the situation to be by the end of the season. So that'll be intriguing. So what we have is about 10 minutes left, guys, which means it's time we're going to actually make our picks. We're just going to run down the games. We're going to give our picks, who we think is going to win. And then if we're wrong, we're just going to wipe this video from the face of the earth, so no one will be able to check it out. Actually, no, that's not true, because we all participate with and use the website tallysite.com, which of course you're able to check out other experts, and we use that word very loosely because we don't consider ourselves experts, but people within the media, we try to make our picks and put them out there, and you can definitely check us on it and see how poorly we do throughout the season. But we're going to go through right now, and we're going to do it. So I'm going to pull up this little schedule. I should have done this before, and in in future weeks, I will have a better graphic up here. But this way, we know what we're talking about, who we're talking about, and let's have some fun with it. So I'm just going to go down the games. We're going to give a quick little take who we think is going to win. If you want to throw out a score, feel free, and we'll do it. So right off the bat, we already done Dallas and Tampa. We all picked Tampa. I think we're all on top of that. I think we all thought it was going to be a little bit more comfortable of a win for Tampa, but hey, a win's a win's a win. So we win on that one. So let's move on to Pittsburgh at Buffalo. Obviously, we've already talked about Josh Allen, the intrigue around him, Ben Roethlisberger, potentially his last season in Pittsburgh. Two potential AFC quote-unquote heavyweights, maybe welterweights, maybe not quite heavyweights yet, but they're getting there. Who do you take, Buffalo or Pittsburgh?
I got Buffalo in this one. I don't know if I can trust anything offensively yet with Pittsburgh. I kind of wait and see with them, especially with their offensive line. This is really first year in a long time that they have had this much overhaul compared to what they've had in the past. So I think it'll actually be a close one, but I think Buffalo, I trust their offense to score more in this game than I do Pittsburgh's.
You might argue the Steelers have the better overall defense, but I think the Bills have the better secondary. So it almost becomes a moot point. And then I just look to who's the better quarterback. And I think right now it's very clearly Josh Allen. So I'll say Buffalo.
Yeah, and this is a clean sweep too. I got Buffalo winning this game as well. I do think it's going to be entertaining, but I am intrigued by Buffalo this season. I do think that they're going to continue to play well. I don't think they're necessarily a lock for the division yet. We'll have to see what these other teams do, but I'm definitely looking for them to win game one. New York Jets at Carolina at the Sam Darnold Bowl. I'll start this one. I got Carolina winning this one, not because of Sam Darnold, but just because I think Carolina is a better team right now than the New York Jets, and I think it's going to play out that way.
Yeah, short and sweet. I mean, I think the Jets cornerback room is probably the worst personnel unit in the league. I don't know who you're going to have cover all these good weapons, and then you just have Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he could probably beat this defense by himself, so to speak. So I just think so much youth and so much changes to the Jets. Got to go Carolina here.
Just give it to McCaffrey and have 10 blockers every play. There you go. You're going to win. You're going to score every time. No. So part of it is, okay, Sam Darnold playing his old team. But really, and I've seen this before, kind of different examples, in quarterback versus defense matchup, I always think the defense has the edge because all the defensive players have seen that quarterback. They all know what he does. Does that quarterback, maybe it depends on how well he's smart practicing, like someone like Brady, Rodgers, maybe, but someone like Sam Darnold, is he going to know every single tendency defensively? And obviously it's not the exact same roster from last year, but I feel like they have a better knowledge playbook on Darnold than he would on the defense. At least that's kind of how I always view the quarterback versus forward team. Because he's got to account for 11 different players, whereas each of those 11 different players knows that one quarterback. But that being said, you guys said it right. The teams are just so they're like it's so mismatched in terms of the offensive weapons alone. As much as I think Elijah Moore could be good as a rookie, I'm going too long. I'm just going to say Carolina. They've got the better team.
There we go.
Sorry.
Well done, Kyle. I appreciate that. Jacksonville at Houston. We already talked about Trevor Lawrence's debut. We've already talked at great length about how bad we think Houston is. I'm going to say Jacksonville, and I think you two are going to agree with me.
I won't say I'm super confident in it, but because it is Urban Meyer, so I just think he could overthink this game against Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor's the difference, but I just don't think Houston's going to make enough stops defensively. I actually really like the weapons for Jacksonville this year. Marvin Jones, always thought he was more underrated, so give him a score today for me, and I'll be happy. Go Jags.
To be fair, you're right, Brady. This is maybe the one team Houston can beat, especially your division rival at home. Like this would be the game Houston could win or should win if there is any game on the schedule, and I'm still not taking them. So I'm going to keep it simple. I'm picking against Houston every game this year. I've been calling it right now.
Trust me, I'm right there with you. I don't even have to know what happens the rest of the way. I'm just going to pick Houston against Houston every time. Arizona at Tennessee. We talked about the potential of Kyler Murray. I think with all that said, I still think Tennessee's a better team. They might be a little vulnerable on defense, but that offense, I think, is going to do some nice things this season with Julio Jones, Derrick Henry, and of course Ryan Tannehill. So I have Tennessee winning this one.
I'm going to go Tennessee as well. An interesting nugget to watch is going to be how the Titans offense operates with Arthur Smith now gone as the OC, but I think it's still the Derrick Henry show. And even though I don't trust either defense, I think Tennessee's just a little bit better than Arizona. So high-scoring game should be a fun one. I got the Titans.
I'd argue Arizona is maybe one of the most improved rosters this year. And I think, the investments they made on the offensive line are significant, and well, hopefully that, for their sake, hopefully that gels and those players produce behind that line. But still, you still need those guys to gel. So I don't know it's going to be full optimal right from week one. And I think there's a big mismatch coaching-wise. That's probably the biggest factor here. I think Vrabel will have this team ready to go week one. Kingsbury, I'm not as convinced yet, so I'm going to go with the coaching and say unanimous and say Tennessee.
Next, we have, again, I mean, there's so many storylines. We didn't even get to a lot of them. Justin Herbert, year 2 with the Chargers, heading to Washington to take on a very good, very great, potentially great defense and a team now led by Ryan Fitzpatrick. This was kind of a tough one to pick. Ultimately, I landed with Washington because I think the defense at home is going to perform well against the Chargers. But man, I'm excited to see Justin Herbert. But Washington takes this one in week 1.
Yeah, I think you got it. I mean, it's a West Coast team coming to the East Coast to one Eastern game, even though it's week 1. I think Chargers have so much new stuff on their offensive line with Corey Linsley, Rashawn Slater. So I go Washington's defense here, and I think it's going to be a tight one, but I got the football team.
Tight one. I mean, this, as far as I know, if the spreads are still updated to this, but this is the closest spread they have. This was because I actually have the Chargers as 1-point favorites the last time I checked. I don't know if those lines have still held through, but I'm going to actually go with Vegas and pick the Chargers. We finally have one where we're different, guys.
There we go.
Because the Chargers, okay, yes, the offensive line, they're having to gel and stuff, but they have a really good defense. And losing Ingram is that's obviously sucks. Like, that's not good to lose one of your premier pass rushers. But I still think the defense is comparable enough that even though you'd say Washington's the better defense, I think the gap between those two units isn't as big as the gap between the quarterbacks. And it is a quarterback league. And maybe Chase Young and Montez Sweat make it so difficult for Herbert that he can't produce. But I'm going to lean on, Bulaga, Linsley being reunited together and thinking that offensive line will gel quicker than what the Cardinals will have, whereas they've brought in guys from a lot of different places. Bulaga's already been there in the system. I think he being there helps Corey Linsley transition quicker because he plays with the guy that he's already played with, someone who can understand how Linsley sees the game and knows, okay, this is how you eat the playbook up quickly. And again, quickly is not my answer here. I'm going to say the Chargers again, but I think it does rely on the quarterback because I don't trust Fitzpatrick. I've made that point before, and all on Herbert.
I was going to say, I'm trying to think of a pitcher that takes an incredibly long time up at the mound. I'm thinking Daisuke Matsuzaki right now. But
there's a golfer who's like his swing is like he'll take like 9-10 swings and then he'll start setting up. Like I can't remember who that is, but yeah,
it's all right.
That's me. I'm sorry.
It's all right. We're gonna rapid fire these last handful because I do want to make sure that we're off right on time because we do have the Full Press Fantasy show coming up where Kyle does run the show there. So, what was that?
Oh, it's me! Yay!
Oh, okay.
I'll be on 11:30. So if we go a little late, it's not too big of a deal. But yeah, 11:30 starts. So
no, it's okay. It's all right. No, we gotta stick to time. Stick to the regimen. So rapid fire these last handful of ones. The second half, basically getting close to these 425 games. We have Philadelphia at Atlanta. This was another kind of a tough game for me to pick. But ultimately, I went with Atlanta. I think Kyle Pitts is going to have a pretty big impressive debut with the Falcons. And I think Matt Ryan, again, is, talk about top 5 quarterbacks in the league. He surely deserves to be mentioned within that group. So I got Atlanta winning this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think if there was any team that doesn't get the number 1 pick, if it wasn't Houston, I think Philly's going to come very close. So I go better quarterback here. A little bit more trust in Arthur Smith, even though he's a new first-time head coach. So go Falcons here.
Yeah, shoot, two first-time head coaches really going up against each other. But yeah, it does seem like Arthur Smith has more of the pedigree. Rookie tight ends, I don't really want to bet on them, but I guess you're betting against the Eagles, right? So that makes it a little easier. So I will pick the Falcons.
Well, and plus, I mean, look, Kyle Pitts is a different. He's not just a rookie tight end. I think a lot of people have a lot of hopes for him. But next,
he's probably going to play as a wide receiver more, which is key to success, I think.
And without Julio Jones, you need someone to pick up that slack there a bit. So next we have Seattle at Indianapolis. It's September, which means it's Russell Wilson MVP talk season. I think he's going to have a strong game. Plus, I have a lot. If I'm a Colts fan, I am walking on eggshells right now, just waiting for this team to go down the hill, because I think it's only inevitable that this Carson Wentz experiment fails, and it could be evident early on, and I think it might happen this week a little bit where you're going to see some cracks. So I got Seattle winning this one.
I'm actually going Colts. I'm going to lean on the running game and the offensive line against parts of Seattle. Like I said on Thursday, I don't trust any of the depth that they have. So I think it's going to be a toss up. It's going to be tight, but I lean on the running game of Indianapolis here.
I'm going to say Seattle. Just go again, picking the big disparity in quarterback skills. Maybe one of the biggest we've seen so far. So, yeah, I'll take Seattle.
Next, we got Minnesota at the Bengals. Joe Burrow coming back after his injury. Kirk Cousins is still Kirk Cousins. I went with, what did I go with here? I have it written down, but I can't find it right now. I went with Minnesota. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. I like Joe Burrow. I think it's going to be, I hope he stays healthy this season. I don't think it's going to happen right off the bat for him. And in this case, I do think Minnesota is going to take this one. So Minnesota, Kirk Cousins, that whole group, I think they're going to have a pretty solid day.
Yeah, and I still worry about the reports we saw in training camp of Burrow struggling to get his timing back a little bit. Yeah. And I don't think they really made enough significant additions to the O-line to help him out. So I got Vikings. This is one of those weeks where people get on the Vikings train. I think we see that like every year for a couple of weeks, but I don't trust them overall all season, but this is a week they should show out, I think, Minnesota.
I don't think the Bengals have an answer for Dalvin Cook. That alone, like this strikes me as one of those games where like the Vikings might just pass it 10 times because the Bengals really just can't stop Cook at all. They have the better offensive line, the better defensive line. As much as maybe eventually Burrow will be the better quarterback, right now it's Kirk Cousins, so I think it's Vikings pretty easily. It might be one of their easiest matchups, as Brady's alluding to. I think they're a really good survivor pick this week, but I've noticed on various sites they're only about a 3% survivor rostership. So I think this is a great week to take advantage of them because they don't really have that many great matchups coming up later in the season. They play the Panthers, the Steelers late, and who knows what Ben's arm going to be like. Those are like two of their better matchups. After that, it's a tough schedule for them. So I think Vikings this week and take them as a survivor pick this week.
Next we have San Francisco at Detroit, the last of our 1:00 games. We talked about this game a little bit. I think we're all going to land on the same page here. San Francisco is just a much better team than Detroit. Even Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, is a better quarterback than Jared Goff, even coming off the injury. So I think pretty easily 49ers are going to win this game.
That might be a hot take with Garoppolo over Goff, but I think it's true. So, yeah, I'm not going to waste time until say 49ers. Sorry, Brady.
Well, right. No, I think you mentioned survivor pick. I mean, this is another good one. I don't know how Detroit's going to even score points in a lot of games this year. I mean, they have receiver guys either in their second year or rookies. So it's other than Tyrell Williams, it's pretty barren there. So San Francisco wins pretty comfortably.
They are the most popular survivor pick this week on I use Yahoo NFL.com, and they're both like 30%, which isn't the most I've ever seen. Like some team weeks I've seen a team like 60% rostership, but it's by far the highest this week, which makes me usually want to go against it. I think the 49ers have a few really good matchups this season, so I'm less likely to take them in survivor this week. I think just looking at the Vikings future schedule, it doesn't look as good as the 49ers. There's a lot of games this year that like, okay, yeah, they're going to win this. This like even next week they play the Eagles. Like that's
right. Yeah.
So they should walk over this early schedule, which maybe keeps Lance on the bench.
Yeah, and like as we talked about it earlier, I personally think that Jimmy G's got a much longer leash. But moving to the 4:00 games, the later afternoon games, which It's a heavyweight, big card
Yeah.
here on the later
Yep.
half, and we're going to start right away with Cleveland at Kansas City. Now, there's I'm going to come across as someone who might be a little bit biased towards a certain team in red, and hey, whatever. To each his own. Maybe I am, but I'm going to take Cleveland in the home opener. I think they just not their home opener, but obviously the opener for the season. I think they're one of the teams that improved a lot on defense. I think this progression that they've made from that season with Freddie Kitchens to where they are now, I think they're, again, checking all the boxes when it comes to, okay, what do you want to get better at next? And I think a combination of all that, potentially maybe a little bit of a September Super Bowl hangover. We've seen the stats all week, 32 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. There's, 10-0 in September. Eventually you're due. And I think maybe today is one of those games. Now, it doesn't say that Kansas City plays a bad game. I just think Cleveland comes out strong and surprises some people here in week 1.
We'll get the Chiefs. Sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to take the Chiefs. Although I do think this is maybe going to be one of their tougher games this year. The Browns are maybe one of their highest contested teams at the top of the AFC. So I think it will be close, and I think it'll come down to the offensive line and Nick Chubb. If they could dominate time of possession, that's probably their recipe to success for the win.
Yeah, I got the Chiefs. I think there's some part of me in this game that I think Cleveland doesn't know what they're expecting. I think Andy Reid's actually going to show a lot more creativity to open the season than he has in the past, just with 4 tight ends. I think the running game, they're going to want to lean on that more this year than they ever have in the past. So I think their offensive line against Cleveland, even though it's new, big advantage there. So I'm going to go Chiefs in this one, just because I think the offense is going to have a pretty solid day all around to open the year.
Next, we got Miami at New England in the battle of the Alabama quarterbacks. Once again, maybe my bias gets in the way here, but I think head to toe, I think the Patriots roster might be a little bit better than the Dolphins. Coaching obviously I think is an advantage towards Bill Belichick, but that's not to say anything about Flores. I think he's a great coach. I think Mac Jones is going to have a pretty solid debut today, and I think that's going to translate to a win at home in front of the Patriots crowd that hasn't seen a football game since Tom Brady's last game as a Patriot. So give me Patriots in this one.
This was the toughest game for me to pick this week, but I think even though as good as Miami's defense is, I think Patriots will make more stops and that grinding style that they have to lean on if they need it. The running game, very deep running back room. I think they're just going to churn out a lot of tough drives. I think Tua's going to have to be perfect late in this game, and I just don't think that's going to happen week 1. So give me the Patriots in a tough, tight game here.
Yeah, they've got a tight game. I agree this was also the toughest one for me to pick, and I think the tight ends are going to be key on both sides, really. Maybe Miami can exploit the wide receivers a little more without Stephon Gilmore. But yeah, I think with the great corners that Miami has, it really is that key to success is those tight ends that for New England to use Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. So if Mac Jones is able to do that, that's probably the way to success. But I'm going to go with Miami. Hopefully I don't get kicked off the stream for picking against New England. But I'll take the road division rivals, thinking that maybe New England sneaks the road game in Miami later in the season as revenge.
Next, we have Denver at New York Giants. I got the Giants in this one. There's not a whole lot of intrigue, personally, in my opinion, for this one. I think the Giants are going to take this one at home over Denver.
I got Denver. I think their defense is going to be the difference here in this one. I think Daniel Jones is going to have a tough day, given, I think, his lack of depth at receiver. So I think this is a game Denver's going to try to impose the running game on the Giants as well, kind of slow it down. So I got the Broncos on the road.
And this could just be turned into an awful game where the defenses are dominating, but it's not even that the defenses are playing well, just that both offenses can't do anything. Right now it looks like the Broncos have the healthier weapons. I wonder if they think, like Braden said, they could rely on the run game. If looking at the schedule, they thought this is maybe a game where we could win with Teddy Bridgewater pretty easily, where Drew Lock might throw an interception and lose it for us. Although the Drew Lock, Daniel Jones, like same draft class, that would have been a fun QB matchup. But I think I'm going to rely on the veteran in Bridgewater and say Denver wins this one on the road.
Next, we have the Packers heading to New Orleans. Well, heading to Jacksonville to take on the. You almost thought they were still in New Orleans. No, not this week. Unfortunately, they're in Jacksonville. The Packers are going to win this game. I think most of the intrigue is surrounding. Okay, how does Jameis Winston look leading this team? But when it comes to picking this game, I'm going the Packers all the way. This is going to be an easy win for them.
Yeah, short and sweet. Packers, better quarterback, better roster. So much new again here with this team in New Orleans. So Packers take care of business here.
Like, I'm not going to pick the Packers, right?
Yeah.
So
Homer,
rather than give my, because I listen to the most recent episode of the Full Press Coverage Packers, and you can hear me and my co-host Jesse's thoughts on this game, and we both really the only match part of the rosters that matches up well is the two running back rooms. Like, you'd probably say, okay, Kamara is the best running back in the game. Aaron Jones isn't, he's pretty close. He's been almost as efficient as Jones or as Kamara throughout his career. Good pass catcher as well. So the one side of the matchup that is in favor of New Orleans is one of the least important parts of who is the better running back room. Is that going to determine a win or loss? Most games it won't, and it's also not that big of a disparity. I think they're just outmatched. Really, the only thing is how the Packers is you have to stop Kamara. How do they stop Kamara? That's the only question. If they can, then they're blowing out the Saints, and it's not even close. If Kamara can dominate, he can keep it close.
No, I agree with that. Last Sunday game, Chicago at the Rams. We've talked about this game at length. I do think the Rams take this one. Again, Matthew Stafford's better quarterback. I think they're just the better team overall, and it's going to be a fun Sunday night. So I got the Rams over the Bears.
Yeah, I do too. I think better offense. I think this is a game. You look at the trenches too, where this one's going to be won. Aaron Donald, obviously, alone is a big difference, but I think the Rams are clearly better than the Bears on both sides of the trenches. So give me the Rams here Sunday night.
Especially with Khalil Mack dealing with an injury, questionable. So his effectiveness, who knows? Because that is really the X factor. Khalil Mack could take over the game and really make life miserable for Stafford. But I'm going to take the Rams.
And last but not least, Monday Night Football, since we're not going to be on tomorrow, Baltimore at Las Vegas. I like the Ravens, even on the road in this one. It's going to be, I feel like it might be a bit of a sloppy game, but I think at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson is going to have himself a pretty solid game, and I think it's going to lead to the Ravens beating the Raiders.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised the spread was not higher in Baltimore's favor for this game. I know it's week 1 and they've had the injuries, but I don't know who's stopping Lamar alone on this Raiders defense, one of the bottom 3 or 5 in the league. So I think Lamar's going to have a huge game just on his own. Mark Andrews gets a touchdown here and there, and the Ravens win it pretty comfortably, I think.
Yeah, Ravens. Sorry. I was like, what else did I need to say? Because, I think, it's going to be obvious.
So sometimes the short answers are the best because, there's really not much to add to it aside from, we did talk about the game a little bit. We talked about that a little bit more in depth than some of these others. But that will wrap it up for our picks, obviously, because that's the only Monday night game as opposed to in years past where they've had some doubleheaders. This year, it's just the single game on Monday night. So like we mentioned earlier, stay tuned here in about 15 to 20 minutes or so for the Full Press Fantasy show. All fantasy for the next hour or whatever, however long Kyle decides he wants to go. So definitely stay tuned for that. You're going to find that over at the at FPC, or actually no, right here on Full Press NFL on Twitter. So give us a follow. And of course, check it out on the YouTube channel. If you want to search Full Press Coverage, you can find all of our videos there. And of course, if you want to just listen to us, if you want to go back and hear everything we said once again, check out the Full Press NFL podcast, wherever you get your podcast, and find this show. For myself, Kyle, and Braden, we wish you a happy NFL kickoff and enjoy your Sunday. Relax, put your feet up, drink your favorite drink, have your favorite food, and just enjoy that we have 17 weeks of regular season football ahead of us, as well as a month and a half of playoff football. Have a great Sunday, everyone, and we will see you next week.